Kakadosh Boker Tov. We're continuing with the new Perek Sheni of Masechet Yoma, Kavbet Amud Aleph 22a1. The Mishnah says, right, Barishona, at the beginning, before we're going to mention what happened later on, anybody that wanted to be Torem the Mizbeach would be able to come and to be Torem. And they never made a goral, they never made a lottery for it. Okay? Ubizman Shem Rubin, right now, if there were a lot of people, so then how would they do it? Ratzim ve'olim b'kevesh, used to run up the ramp of the Mizbeach. Kol hakodem et chavero betoch 400. If the first person that got within the 4 amot, yeah, towards the Mizbeach, Zacha, he would get to do the Trumat Hadeshen. Yeah, so he would have a splint, how do you call it? Splint run? I forgot the word. There's a word for it. Which is basically he's going to sprint run. He's going to go for the run. Yeah, he's doing competition with Baba Haki. Yeah, running like a sprint run very quickly. The first one with the 4 amot, he gets to do it. What happens if they are both equal to the 4 amot when they get to the Mizbeach? So the Memune, which is the one in charge, right? He would tell them, Hatzbiu, take out a finger. So then he used to check according to the numbers of fingers. Here the Gemara is going to explain exactly how do they count the fingers of the Kohanim. Okay, they would come and put out fingers. So according to the amount of fingers, they would find out. Okay, fine. So now, umahen motzin, what would they take out? Etzba achat or shtayim, 1 finger or 2 fingers. However, though, emotzinu agudal b'mikdash, they would never take out the agudal in the mikdash, the thumb, but rather 1 or 2 fingers, which are close to it. Okay. Here it says it's much better. It's a sur. Because of the Ramaim. Because basically what happens is if you take out like this, so maybe somebody would count 2 different people. Because since it's so far away, right? If I'm looking, and I'm not looking at faces, I'm looking at fingers. So if I'm doing like this, I could count it as 2 different people because I separated it so much like this. But if I'm going to do not the thumb, any 2 of the fingers, no matter which ones I'm going to do, it's much closer together. It's not like this, which is completely, separate. That's what he explains here in the footnote. Okay, Ma'aseh. Yeah, he comes and he says like this: Ma'aseh shayu shneim shavim v'ratzim v'olim b'kevesh. So there was a story that they were both equal, right? When they were running up, v'dachaf echad me'en et chavero v'nafal nishbira raglo. So one of them pushed the other one, and he broke his leg. Right? So
they used to do that.
Yeah. So once the Betin saw that they were coming to Sakana, that's it. There's no more sprint runnings, no more runnings whatsoever. Right? What is it? Yeah, it was only going to be through a goral. Okay, so it says and there's going to be 4 different pais in the Bet HaMikdash. This is the first one that they was doing. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara. Ask the Gemara, why from the beginning didn't they make the pais? Meaning, from the beginning, they should have made, right, these lotteries. Why did they make the lotteries from the beginning? So says the Gemara, Meikara Savur, given the Avodat Laila hi. So at the beginning they thought that since at the beginning it's called Avodat Laila, right? So lo chashiva lehu, right? It wasn't chashuv because the Trumat Hadeshen was still kasher during the nighttime. So therefore it's not considered an Avodah Chashuva in the eyes of the Kohanim. Velo atu. So there wouldn't come a lot of Kohanim. So there was never really fights. But given the chazu the katu, but since they saw that no, that the Kohanim would come, even for that. Now there's going to come sakana. Takinu lehu payasa. So then they did institute piyus. They did institute these gorals. Okay, these lotteries.
Yeah.
Okay. So says the Gemara.
That's why there's not going to be fights.
Exactly. That's why there's not going to be fights. The Gemara says, 1 second. The limbs was also avodah laila, as we learned at the beginning of Berachot, which means that the limbs they used to bring it at the beginning of the nighttime. It's kosher in the nighttime. Right? Says 1 second, but the rabbi still instituted lotteries for it. So answers the Gemara, no, but there it's sof avodah yemamahi. There, it's the last service of the day. Meaning, if it's nighttime, which precedes the day, right? If it's nighttime, which is after the day, right? So then people are still around, which means it's true. Think about it. How many people come before Shachrit, and how many people could stay after Mincha Navit? After Mincha Navit, you're still in the middle of the day, so there's still more people. There's more rash. There's more noise. There's more everything. But in the morning, people would have to wake up earlier for that. So that is much less people. And there, it's much less people in such a thing. So says the Gemara, 1 second. This is the Tumat Hadesh. This is also the beginning of the work. Meaning you're telling me that it's the Sof Avodah. I'm going to tell you Tchilat Avodah. Sof Avodah is Zevarim Upuradim, is the limbs, right? And Tchilat Avodah is the Tumat Hadesh. Ta'amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, Kidesh Yadav Tumat Hadesh. Once he sanctified his names for Tumat Hadesh, Lemachar, right? The next day, which is after Alot HaShachar, En Tzarich LeKadesh, you don't have to do it. Shekvar Kidesh V'Tel Avodah, which means this. If right now a Kohen comes and he washes his hands, Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, before Alot HaShachar, right after Alot HaShachar, he doesn't have to do it again because he already did it at the beginning. So you see from here that it's also part of the Avodah. This is very similar to what we speak about, that if a person did Netilat Yadayim in Shachrit in the morning, so they have to do Netilat Yadayim again. So we always say that a person should do it without a beracha. That's why when people come here to Selichot and they're up so early in the morning, right? We say Selichot. Now they already did Netilat Yadayim before, but then they do it again without a bracha. Okay, it's Maran. However, though, here it's telling you befurash, the second they did Netilat Yadayim beforehand, it's not Netilat, it's Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, they don't have to do it again afterwards. So answers the Gemara, no.
Because he said the bracha already.
Yeah, so he says, Eima shekvar kidesh mitechila avodah. You already did it, which means, letzorech, whichever avodah, which is the avodah of the Tumat Hadeshin, but really, the Tumat Hadeshin is not an avodah on itself, it's part of the entire avodot. So therefore, since you already sanctified yourself on the avodah, and it doesn't matter which avodah, so therefore you don't have to do it again. Yeah? Okay. Ikadamni, there are those that say, Meikara Savur, from the beginning they held, Kevin the Ika Onesh Shena, Loatu. People thought that the Tumat Hadeshin, people are still sleeping. And there's something which is called Onesh Shena. Onesh Shena means people sleep in. Meaning it's difficult to wake up in the morning. It's not simple. So he says, but Kevin the Chazudatu, once they saw that people were coming, they cut to them, and they also saw not only they were coming through a sakana. So then Takinu Rabbanan Payasa. Then they went and instituted the lotteries. So asked the Gemara, Vare Varim Upradim, Tika, what? Also in the nighttime, people want to go to sleep. And the rabbis did institute Piasa. So says the Gemara, Shane Migne Mimeka. It's different going to sleep than waking up. There's no so much of a strength of going to sleep, meaning people have Yetzer Hara to sleep, but the going to sleep at night is much less powerful than what it is to wake up early in the morning. Meaning once a person's already up, they're there. So to go to sleep, okay, fine. So it could be a guy's tired, whatever you want, but it's not the same. Here it's to wake up early is much stronger. So says the Gemara, he says, is this takanata goral for the Tumat Hadeshin for that? Which means is it only because of what we mentioned? Right? Because the Kohanim were coming through to Sakana? Takanta lahaygi sahavai. I thought it was for another reason. The Tanya was learned in the Braita. Right? Mish zacha betumat hadeshin. Iske besidur ma'anacha v'shne gziratim. Somebody that's going to be zoche in the Tumat Hadeshin, he's also going to be zoche in the sidur ma'anacha and shne gziratim. Right? Sidur ma'anacha is placing the wood on the mizbeach, and shne gziratim is putting the two woods right onto the mizbeach. Okay. One second. Here it is. Yeah, first of all, right, this is the 4 amot that we said when he's coming up to the Mizbeach. Everyone could see it there. And now here, this is the Shnei Gezerei Eitzim. He's placing the Shnei Gezerei Eitzim. And this is Sidura Maracha. Yeah, this is the Sidura Maracha. And this is the Shnei Gezerei Eitzim. Okay? Everyone sees it, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So it says over here, so they had the Sidur Maracha and Shnei Gezerei Eitzim. So Amar Ravashi says, Shte takanot havu. Yeah, he says really, there were two takanot, really. There were two institutions. Meikara savu loatu. At the beginning, they thought that they weren't going to come at all. Once they saw that they were coming to Sakana. They made a goral, they made a lottery to Kinulu Piazza. And once they made a lottery, again loatu. They stopped coming. Meaning at the beginning, they were all trying to come because I'm going to be the first one to be Zoche. Then afterwards, what happened is that all of a sudden, right, they went and they made a lottery. Once they made a lottery, again, they stopped coming. So then again, you have a problem. Because again, they stopped coming. So what are you going to do? So Amri, they said, you know what? Okay, fine. We're going to make it a 2-for-1. Yeah, business deal. Amri, they said, Mi emar de mitramalan, right? He says, what? Who's going to say that they're going to be Zoche in the Goral? Hadar takinu lu mishas. So then they went and they made a Zoche, that whoever is Zoche in Trumat HaDeshem was Zoche in Sidur Manachal, Shnei Gzeretzim. Ki echad enet yosei, everyone would come. Which means if it was only just a Trumat HaDeshem, right? At the beginning, they were coming. But once they made it difficult for them, because now it had to do with, Goral, which is basically the lottery, so they stopped coming. So then again, they went and they said, they tried to entice people. So by giving them extra jobs with that, so now all of a sudden it enticed them to come back again. Okay, then we said, Bizman Shehem Merubin. So during the time when there are going to be a lot of people. So it says, Amar of Papa, meaning when there's going to be a lot of Kohanim, so they used to run up the ramp. So Amar of Papa says, Pshitali, it's obvious to me, Arba Amot De'ara, right? When we're talking about now 4 Amot, right? Lo. In other Kavanah, we're talking about the 4 Amot of the Azara, which is close to the Kevish, right? Where he says, no, Ratzin ve'olim ba'kevish tanan. It says they actually had to go up the Kevish, which means Kamai tanamilo. But it's also now the 4 at the beginning of them, because it says Ratzin ve'olim ba'kevish tanan. Ve'hadar koda kodem et chaviro, whoever we got there first. Te'beni beni namilo. So it can't be also anywhere in the Kevish. Te'lo mesayim aminta, because if not, then they can't finish. There's no siman. Meaning like this, you can't say that it's the 4 amot at the beginning of the ramp, because it says they were running up the ramp. You can't say it's 4 amot in the middle of the ramp. Yeah, you have the picture there, right? But why? Because then what's going to happen? But rather, pshitale de gabe mizbeach tanan. We're talking about the 4 amot right before the mizbeach. So that was the other picture that I showed you guys when I shared the screen. Yeah, I'll show you also this picture here. Yeah, it had to be the 4 amot up here. Okay? So Bayit of Papa says, so Arba Amot Shamru Bahade Ama Yesod V'Ama Sovev. Are you going to tell me that the 4 Amot was including the Ma Yesod and the Ma Sovev or not? Which means like this. Yeah? When we here 4 Amot. There's Ama of the Sovev. Remember, this is the ramp, the Kevish, coming up. Over here, which is in the middle of the ramp, you have, right, a passageway, which is an Ama going all around the Mizbeach. Okay, that's called the Ama Sovev. Ama Knisata Sovev. Here on the bottom, you have the Ama of the Yisod. So each one was an Ama. So this is one Ama, this is another Ama. Do we say that the 4 Amot are including this Ama and this Ama? Or do we say not? That's the Gemara is asking. Okay, so now we're on Kavbet Amubet, 22b.
They have one Sobev completely. Then another one that was only L shape.
Yeah, but that L shape was the Yesod. It's not the Sovev. Meaning the Sovev, the Ama Sovev.
Only L shape.
Right, exactly. So the Ama Sovev went completely around, and that's where they used to go around and usually do many times, whether it's the blood or for the birds, right? They used to do it up there. However, though, the bottom, which was the Yesod, was where they used to do whether it's the sprinklings of the blood or they had also the shiraim of the blood over there.
But it's not near the Kevish.
Well, put it this way. It's yes. Well, it's not near the Kevish because exactly. It's basically, if you remember, it went on the north, and then it went on the west.
Correct.
Then you had a little tiny bit and a ma on this side and a little bit of this side. So it was on all 4 sides, right? But it was 2 full sides, a little tiny bit, over here, and a little tiny bit over there.
But how can they get to it? It's from the Yesod.
You're right, from the outside. It had to be from the outside, not from the Kevish at all.
Or they will go from the one that's Sovet, the complete one. They can use that.
So the Gemara's question was, do we include it? Or Dilma, or maybe maybe it's excluding it. Teku, we don't have an answer. So we don't know if it's 4 amot from the last part or 4 amot including that. Okay? So vima yushnem shavim. So what do we say? We said that if they were equal, and Memuneh omer lahem, so the Memuneh used to tell them, the Memuneh is like the guy in charge, right? Like the parnas. So he would tell them, atzviu, show fingers. Yeah, Tana, we learned, hotziu etzbeotechem leminyan. So you used to tell them, take out your fingers for countings. Okay, so says the Gemara, v'nimninu ledidu. Why didn't he just count the Kohanim? Right? Why does he have to count fingers? Just count Kohanim. One Kohen, two Kohen. Why is he counting fingers? Okay, so says the Gemara, right? This helps from Yitzhak. You're not allowed to count the Jews. Even for a mitzvah. That Shaul came and he counted the people. And because he counted the people, it was, now even though he was for a tzorech mitzvah over there, right? Because it was a milchama and everything, but he counted them and it's a problem. He didn't count them, right? According to the numbers. So you see that you're not allowed to count Jews even for numbers. So it doesn't help. So Matkifla Ravashi comes and he starts asking, how do you know that this bezek is lishna dimuzaki? How do you know that the word bezek is something which is breaking? Maybe it's the name of the city. As it says in a pasuk, bezek bevezek. Right, the bezek was also the name of the city. Okay. Yeah, so he says, how do you know that it means, maybe it's the name of the city and not that something was broken? So it says, from here, it says, Vayishama Shaul eta'am, vayifkedem, right, batlaim. So here, Shaul came and he counted the people through the sheep. That means every single person took a sheep, and then they counted the sheep, right, but not the actual people. So you see from here that even though they were going out from Milchem Mitzvah against Amalek, they still didn't count people, they counted the sheep and not the people. So Amar Rabbi Elazar, if you're going to count Jews, you transgress a negative commandment. You're not allowed to count. Now Nachman Yitzchak says, it's two lavin, not one lav, one negative commandment, two negative commandments. You're not allowed to count at all. Amar Shmuel ben Nachmani says, Shmuel ben Nachmani, Rabbi Yonatan had a contradiction. It's written that it was like the sand of the sea. So what is it exactly? So he says, Lakash, it's not a question. So if Bnei Israel are doing the Makom, the will of Hashem, then we don't have a numbers at all. We don't have numbers when we're doing the will of Hashem. However, though, when we're not doing the will of Hashem, then we do have numbers. Because basically the contradiction was, it says that we are going to be Kechol Hayam, right? And then it says that you can't even, meaning, are we going to be like Kechol Hayam, or are we going to be that you can't even count? So it all depends. If we're doing the Tzon Makom, we can't even be counted. But if we're not doing the Tzon, then we can be counted. Okay, another answer would be Rebbe Amar Mishum Abba Yosef in the Stai. Says Rebbe in the name of Abba Yosef in the Stai. Lakasha, it's not a question. Can be the Adam, can be the Shamayim. The first one is talking about Bidei Adam. The second one is talking about Bidei Shamayim. Okay? So Amar of Nilai Baridi Amar Shmuel. It says of Nilai Baridi name of Shmuel. Kevan Shenitmana Adam Parnas al Tzibur, Mitasher. The second that a person becomes a Parnas on the Tzibur, he becomes rich. Why? Meikar Aktiv, as it's written in the beginning of Ifkedem Bevazek, right? That he was at the beginning in Bazek, which was the Shivrei Cheres, like the broken utensils. But then it's written Ifkedem Betlaim. He went and he was in charge of the sheep. So that means it became, in between, they became rich. Okay? So says the Gemara, 1 second, the Dilma Mididu. Maybe the Anshe Tzava took it from themselves. It wasn't for Shaul, from Shaul. So says the Gemara, Ken Ma'ir Minta. So then what's the Chidush, obviously? Right? What's the Chidush then? Right? That why isn't it again that he didn't do again the counting with the Shivrei Charesim, just like the first time? But rather all of a sudden now he had a whole bunch of sheep, and that's why he was able to give them, and that's what happened. So then it says, Vayarev Banachal. They went and they started arguing, or they started fighting in the Nachal. Amar Abimani, says Abimani, Shaul made a miriva with a Kadosh Baruch Hu Liske Nachal, which means in the mitzvah Vegla Rufa. Okay, but it says Ve'oridu Zikna Ira Taigla El Nachal Etan, to the Nachal, to the stream. So he said like this: the Shasham Alakosh Baruch Hu Shaul, when Akadosh Baruch Hu told Shaul, Lech v'ikita et Amalek, go fight Amalek. Amari said, Uman nefesh achat amla Torah. If on one Jew the Torah says we have to bring an egla rufa, kol nefashot alalu. So look at all this. Look how much we need kapara. Right? Imagine one Jew dies, we need an atonement. Imagine right now over here. One Jew dies. Look how much of an atonement you need. Egla rufa. So imagine how many Jews died. Obviously, they're going to need it. Now, if the human being sinned, why is it that the animal sins? And if it was elderly people, why did the children sin? So Yatsa bat kol ve'amra lo, so bat kol came out from the Shemaim and said, Al ti'i tzadik arbeh, which means don't be so merciful.
If we think about it, Shaul had heart. How can he don't want
Uvesha she'amar lo Shaul ledoeg. Now when Shaul came and he told Doeg during the sin of the Ira Kohanim, Sovata ubga b'Kohanim, go kill the Kohanim. Yatsa bat kol ve'amra lo al ti'isha arbeh, don't be such a rasha. Meaning that all of a sudden he switched. 2 seconds ago, he was already the all-merciful against Amalek. And 3 seconds later, he's the all-cruel. You understand? So Amar Ravuna says Ravuna, Kama lo chale v'lo margish kavra de maresiyeh. How much is the person saved from choli and de'aga, right? That if a person is HaKadosh Baruch Hu is helping him. Shaul be'achat ve'altalo. David b'shtayim ve'lo altalo. So this we already spoke about many, many different times, this Gemara. Many times we mentioned this. Shaul sinned once. And because of that one sin, he lost the entire kingdom. David sinned twice. And albeit sinning twice, he didn't lose the kingdom. So the Gemara is going to explain. Shaul sinned once. Masechet Agag. Agag, the king of Amalek. So ask the Gemara, why is it only once? It was also Novi Rekwanim. So it was twice also. So says the Gemara, no. Already by Agag, it was already written that I've renounced or I regretted making Shaul king. Meaning from already there, this was already before Nov. You already see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was going to take it away from him. David b'shtayim I knew. What is David and Shtayim? Right? It says the Uriah Achiti, right? The story of Uriah and Hasatah. What is Hasatah? The counting of Bnei Yisrael. As it says over there, so counting Bnei Yisrael and the story of Uriah Achiti. So ask the Gemara, 1 second. Right? What about Batsheva? Right? Also Batsheva. So it's 3 really. It's not 2. Answers the Gemara, Hatami praumine. That was already paid, meaning he already got punished for that. He said that remember the story with Natan Navi in chapter 51 in Tehillim, Psalms, he told him that the person is chayav mavet and he has to pay 4 times. Right now, the ben mavet he was able to get rid of because immediately he went and he said chatati, so he was forgiven. However, though, what about that he had to pay back 4 times? So he did pay back 4 times. David was punished with 4 of his children. The child of Bathsheba, the first child of Bathsheba that died. Amnon was killed, right? That was his son. Tamar and Avshalom. Tamar was violated and Avshalom was killed. So because of this, David received this punishment on it, on the story of Bathsheba, right? So therefore, that's why. So besides the concept of Bathsheba, it was Uriah, because he caused the death of Uriah. So Uriah was the husband of Bathsheba. So basically what happened was, right, it was the death of Uriah and then also of the story of Bathsheba.
I didn't know that
Tamar was, so the Gemara says, Hatam Nami Apruamine. 1 second. Also the chet of the counting, he also was punished. HaKadosh Baruch Hu started giving a huge plague. People just started dropping dead. People started dying. So answers the Gemara, Hatam lo yiprau migufe. Yeah, but it was other people that were dying, not from him. Meaning the case of the 4, right? When he said that you had to pay for that sheep, you had to pay 4 times. That made sense, right? But here it wasn't against him; it was against other people. So says the Gemara, 1 second. Also by Bathsheba, lo yiprau migufe, it wasn't him; it was his children. So it says, yeah, lebelaye, it was from him. The Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav says Rav, Shisha chodashim nitzara David. Right, for 6 months, David had sarat. Upishu mimenu Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin left him. There was no Shekhinah. Yeah, so basically from the Tefillah of David HaMelech, right, basically what happened was that from the Tefillah of David HaMelech, yeah, you actually see what happened. But basically what was happening is that he was taken away from him. Whether it was a Shekhinah, whether it was a Sanhedrin. So says the Gemara, fine. Ve'amar Rav, Kibel David Lashon Hara. There's another one also. He accepted Lashon Hara. Because when Avshalom, his son, right, when David HaMelech was running away from Avshalom, his son, came Tziva, the Eved Mephibosheth ben Yonatan, and he told them about Mephibosheth, that he says he's sitting in Yerushalayim, right? And basically David believed him. So therefore he accepted Lashon Hara. That's another sin. So says the Gemara, yeah, he says the Gemara, Ki Shmuel, it was like Shmuel. The Amar says Shmuel, Lo kibel, David lo kibel Lashon Hara. He didn't actually accept it. Right? That means he already suspected it, but he accepted the suspecting of it, but he didn't accept it. Or Rav Nami, and according to Rav also, Damar kibel David Lashon Hara. He also was paid back for it. When he went and he said that you and Tziva are going to divide the field, the fact that you went and you believe this Tziva guy, and therefore you went and he said that now you're going to divide the field between you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said now, Yerovam and Rechovam, which come from your children, because remember, Rechovam was the grandson. He was the son of Shlomo HaMelech. So your grandson is now going to have to divide Am Yisrael with Yerovam ben Nevat. So going to be, Midah Kenega Midah. Okay? So fine. By the way, if you remember, we did ask the question, why was it like that? Why is it that David HaMelech sinned twice, even though we went through all the Shakavataya, how many more times or not more times, but David did it twice, and he was saved from taking away the Malchut, and Shaul once. We had a few answers. Yeah. Answer number one that we answered is that David HaMelech immediately said Chatati. When a person immediately recognizes their sin, they get forgiven immediately. But Shaul did not say Chatati. He said, no, it was the nation, it was this, it was that. So therefore he waited, and that's what was the one answer. Another answer, what the answer is that what we answered when we spoke about Bechira Chofshit and Esav and David HaMelech. We said that Shaul was a tzaddik, and he took his good midah and he used it for the bad. David had his bad midot, and he always changed them for the good. So a person that has a bad midah, right, and he changes it for the good, he's a bigger tzaddik than Shaul, that he had the good midot and he had to change it for the bad. And that's what we said was David HaMelech was just like Esav. He was Admoni, right? He was just like red, just like Esav, and that's why he was a bloodthirsty, but he used it for Yefei Enayim, with the eyes of the Sanhedrin. He would kill according to Sanhedrin. He wouldn't just be a murderer like Esav. So all those things, that was the yesod why David HaMelech was able to do that. But it is important to know this Gemara now. Ben Shana lemolcho. It says that Shaul was Ben Shana lemolcho. Amar Ravuna keben Shana shelo tam chet. He never sinned. Meaning Shaul was such a tzaddik, he never sinned. Okay? So it says, yeah, Matkif Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. It says Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Yeah, he comes and he says, yeah, ve'ima keben Shana shemelucha. Yeah, he says, it says over here, that it says it's going to be like tit and tzoa. So he says like this, he says, yeah, what does that mean? He showed, right, Rav Nachman in the Chalom, he went and he showed the pachad, that they were making him afraid. So therefore you see that Rav Nachman came, and since he was thinking after Shaul, he had, meaning, comes Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, the Gemara already said, Ben Shana Shaul b'molcho, we're at the bottom of Kabet Amubet, yeah? Ben Shana Shaul b'molcho, that he was 1 year old, the Ki'ilu, that he was mamash at the beginning. So says Rav Huna, Keben Shana, what does it mean? He never had sin. So as Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, no, maybe it's Keben Shana, that he's all meluchlach and tit and tzoa. A 1 year old, they go into the garbage, they go into the, he's all meluchlach, you understand? He's all dirty, you understand? So he comes and he says, no. He says, really, Be'emet, what's happening is that what happened was all of a sudden he saw in a chalom that they were getting him afraid. Amar, he said, Na'aneti lachem. Right? I said too much. Atzmot Shaul ben Kish, right? He said, what, I spoke against the atzmot of Shaul ben Kish. How could it be that he spoke against Shaul? So Hadar Chazasiyut bechelmeh, by then again, he was afraid. Amar, Na'aneti lachem, atzmot Shaul ben Kish, Melech Yisrael. The king of Israel, all of a sudden now he gave more respect that it's now Melech Israel. Then all of a sudden, so now what happened? So Amar Rav Yehuda Meshul says in Meshul, why Be'emet didn't Shaul have his kingdom completed? Why didn't he continue? It says, dofi. He had no pgam. The Amar Rav Yochanan Mishum Rav Shimon ben Tzadak says Rav Yochanan Rav Shimon ben Tzadak, Emma medim parnas al tzibur el imken kupa shel shatzim tudayim mecharav. They will only put a parnas on the tzibur if he has a kupa shatzim behind him, meaning some type of a gam in his yichus. Because if he's going to start putting his nose up in the air, they tell him, look behind you. Meaning if a person comes and there was nothing, so then he would become haughty. What's going to stop him? But if he's got something behind him, all of a sudden they come and they tell him something, he lowers his nose. So Amar of Yehuda Marav says of Yehuda Marav, why was Shaul punished? Because he was mochel al kevodo. He forgave on his own respect. He forwent on his respect. So there the pasuk is saying it, which means that mechilal kvodo, right? It says over here pamaim from the beginning is not good. Kol tamid chacham, any tamid chacham shenu lokem noter kenachash, eno tamid chacham. Meaning that Shaul was a king. A king cannot be mochel al kvodo. And that's what we're saying here also. Tamid chacham, if he's not going to be nokem v'noter, he's not going to mamash be nokem nikmato, and noter eva like a nachash, like a serpent, he's not a tamid chacham. And we're going to ask why, and Bezrat Hashem, we're going to explain why, Bezrat Hashem, tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.